so you mentioned your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did you meet?
Yeah, we met during undergrad. He was a senior, I was a freshman. He was an engineer as well. So we're another engineering couple. It's something I've learned. It's so important to have the connection because we've seen students that don't reach out at all. If one thing goes wrong, usually it's kind of a waterfall effect, and at the end it's just kind of a rock fall, and it's just everything comes crashing down. So
for someone that is kind of reserved,
it's just talking. It's walking up to someone and saying, "Hey, what are you passionate about?" That's how I recruit people to events and try and build those connections. Do what you can because being involved is stressful also.
Yeah.
Like I burned out twice.
So lastly, I'm going to ask about the Nigerians.
Like I've learned a lot.
Hi and welcome back to our channel. My name is again Bimisola and this is the Engineering Couple Podcast. And today, this is the second season of our podcast and it's titled the Grad School Chronicles. So we have another guest on our podcast. Her name is Katie, but she will tell us who she is in a few moments. Yeah, so nice to meet you and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Of course.
So yeah, can we meet you?
Yeah. So my name is Katie Mowat. I am American and Canadian. I attend the University of Nebraska Lincoln, and I'm in their doctoral program in engineering education research. But I have a master's in environmental engineering and a background in civil engineering, and I work as an engineer for a firm up in North Dakota.
Oh,
Part-time.
Sounds good. So I think let's start with like how you got into grad school. Like,
okay.
I know your schedule is kind of tight with having to work part-time, school, and every other thing that's going on in your life. So, like, what motivated you to go into grad school? Yeah.
So, So undergrad, I did civil engineering out in Washington State, Walla University. And at the time, I wasn't sure what type of civil engineering I wanted to go into. There's quite a few different types: structural, transportation, water resources, environmental. And so in order to kind of narrow the field a little bit, because I felt I was kind of not very confident and I wanted to be more confident. So I talked to my husband and the two of us decided that grad school would be a good option for me to find more of a narrowing down. And so we looked in different schools and then applied to UNL because they had a program both of us could do. We both could go together. Okay. That was important to us. So that's kind of how I got into the master's program. The PhD program was slightly different. I took a class in engineering education during my master's and thought, people in engineering, these are things I love. Let's see if we can bring these two things together. And so I applied for that program both here at UNL, and continued into that program after I finished my master's. So slightly different reasons. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned your husband.
Yeah.
So you were married before grad school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did you meet?
Yeah, we met during undergrad. He was a senior, I was a freshman. He was an engineer as well. So we're another engineering couple.
Yeah.
And he toured me through calculus and statistics and statics and dynamics. And once we ran out of things for him to tutor me in civil engineering because he was mechanical, we had to get married. So I could keep him around. But yes, we were married at the end of my sophomore year.
Oh,
so
nice.
We're coming up on our 7th anniversary in September. Yeah.
Oh, that's very lovely. So I think it's almost the same thing, except like we were classmates.
Yep, there you go.
So I think the love of education brought us together, and I think same thing with you.
It's certainly nice to have some commonality.
Yeah.
In understanding. A lot of our friends aren't engineers at this point. Some the ones from undergrad certainly are, but here in Lincoln, we have our friends from grad school, obviously, that are engineers, but a lot of medical people, and so it's kind of fun to bounce different things off each other when we're chatting with people.
Yeah. So, veering of grad school things, like how was it like dating and schooling?
An undergrad?
Yeah,
because that's what we did. It was good. I think since we were both in school, we were in the same
system.
Yeah. Environment, culture. So we were both working on stuff, and we can go on walks late at night after we work on homework. And you're just together all the time because you're in the school environment, which did make grad school together also fun because you
have someone to
understanding.
Yeah,
being able to do things together. We were both part of student government, so being able to do student government together was a blessing. So just having these opportunities to do things together. And now as we're coming to the end of our graduate careers, it'll be different. It'll be a little different because we both
Yeah.
have jobs. So, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so again, sorry for asking.
Yeah.
Again about your like relationship, how it was like in school.
Yeah.
So since he graduated before you.
He graduated undergrad before me because he was a senior when I was a freshman. So he had 3 years of work experience while I was still in school.
Okay. So how did you keep that?
Yeah. I was able to move off campus because we were married.
Oh.
So that worked out. And so he'd come home from work for lunch and I'd come home for lunch. And so we'd spend those time together. He was still very involved in the university at the time. He taught some classes after he graduated, some labs. So very involved. We had people over. So before church every week, we had people come over for breakfast. And so we do waffles and pancakes and have everyone over. So we had a lot of the same friend group during that time.
Oh.
So even though he was working, it was similar. And then when we came to grad school, we both started our master's at the same time and PhD. So we'll be ending at the same time. So we're in sync. So it's a lot more fun when you're in sync.
Yeah, exactly.
Than staggered.
Yeah, I think same, not exactly the same.
You guys are like 1 year off?
No, actually we're
Are you the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Classmate. It's just grad school that
Yeah.
he came like
Year ahead.
year ahead. A semester ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I get the synergy points and how it helped you. It did help you in your academics.
Yeah.
Like what's mechanical and civil engineering at some point, like your interests kind of veer off.
A little bit, yes. There's some differences, certainly. Civil's way more, has been jokes a lot on this, but like bigger projects, civil, or mechanicals build weapons, civils build targets. I do not like that joke, but he loves it. So a lot of big projects on that side and more the water and ground, whereas he's machinery and processes. However, we had the unique opportunity to work in the same lab a year ago. So I worked in biological systems engineering. I got to run a student-run center.
Yeah.
And so I had a bunch of undergrads that worked for me. And I worked for the same advisor that is his advisor. So for a year there, we got to kind of be in the same lab, kind of recombine into the agricultural side, being in Nebraska, agriculture. So that's been fun to kind of find some synergies as you get back together again. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to your experience in student government. How did you get into that?
Sure. So before I arrived on campus for my master's degree, my advisor reached out to all the environmentals that were coming in and said, hey, we need a departmental rep for environmental engineering. So before I even arrived on campus, I was already the environmental engineering rep in the student government here at UNL. And so I joined in. It was interesting. Did that for a year, and then a friend of mine in construction management was like, you know what, we should go for one of the positions where we were co-chairs of a committee. And so we ran the next year and became co-chairs of professional development. And after that year, I got my husband involved, and he became communication chair, where I became VP of something. And from there, he became the vice president and then president, and then I was another VP, and then I became president this past year and just finished up just 2 months ago. So very involved. That's kind of it. Once you get in, it's really hard to get out because you see the needs of students, you see the issues that need to be solved, you see how you can make an impact.
Yeah.
And so it's been really cool experience to be so involved at such a high level of student government. I've also been involved in, I guess, not lesser, but our departmental GSAs, which I think are also really important.
Yeah.
So
you're involved in SWE too?
And Grad SWE, yeah. So I was one of the founding members of Grad SWE here at UNL, so Society of Women Engineers at the grad level. There was 5 of us. We now have over 80 members. So that's, I think, a really cool group of people. I've gone to a bunch of the conferences and got to be president of that almost 2 years ago now, because it was the year before. So it wasn't quite last year, because I guess last year would have been GSA, so the year before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm very bad at student government.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm a member of GSA in my department.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that active.
Do you think the department's active, or just finding ways to be involved in it?
Oh, yeah. So I think for us, I think is the fact that the department, I think we're also I would say disconnected.
Yeah.
So, and like trying to get everyone like involved in things, like trying to get everyone in one place to agree,
On
aside from
something.
food. Like,
Yes, food's a win all the time. Always.
yes, aside from food, like just getting people like involved, like it's kind of difficult. Like I think
Yeah.
everybody is so serious in mechanical engineering, so they just want to be in their labs and focus on research. And
We haven't talked about electrical. It's even worse. Yeah, stereotypes in engineering. I do think civil environmental, it draws more people, more extroverts.
I think because you like for civil, because you work with, like more with people.
Yes, engineers always work for the client, but there's a lot more interface with clients in a civil engineering role.
Yeah.
That
So
might
I
help.
think mechanical, like, I think that's one of, okay, let me confess. So one of the reasons I decided to study mechanical engineering was like, I didn't want to deal with people. Like, I just wanted to focus on machines, but I think I quickly learned that we still have to deal with people. Like, yeah, eventually.
Yep.
So, but like, that was one of the reasons. So I think in a way, some people still play that stereotype, like they just want to focus on the research and just research all the time. So to get people like speaking to each other, like it's even difficult. Like knowing what is happening in a different lab, very difficult.
It's something I've learned. It's so important to have the connection, because we've seen students that don't reach out at all, that are in one lab. They only know their lab mates, if even their lab mates. I've had people not even know the other person that's working for their advisor. So if they don't have a network of some sort, if something goes wrong, and in grad student life, if one thing goes wrong, usually it's kind of a waterfall effect, and at the end it's just kind of a rock fall, and it's just everything comes crashing down. So if we can deal with the small things and figure out when one little problem emerges and get ahead of it, it's so much better in the long run. There's a lot of things we can talk about in my grad experience, but I did have kind of a bad situation where I switched advisors. And during that time, I stopped laughing. So like my emotions were not, I'm a very people person, and I wasn't anymore. I was not who I really am. And my husband noticed. And the people around me started to notice. And like, hey, this is not the Katie we know. Something is wrong. So I think with these situations where we don't have community, we can have people that they stop laughing and no one notices. And they just fall through the cracks. And so, no, you don't have to be part of the biggest student government. No, maybe it's not even the mechanical engineering GSA, but maybe it's a smaller group of people that's from the countries that you're part of, or your continent, or a religious group, or maybe you all like crocheting. I love crocheting. So finding something that you have a community that will notice when something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is finding, it's hard to bring groups together. Like I know in BSc, they have biomedical, they have agricultural, and water. Totally different stuff. So trying to bring that group together a couple of years ago, they really worked hard to get input from each of them, to get officers from each of the different groups. So in mechanical, that could be something where we're looking at, hey, how do we get people from, and this shows my lack of knowledge, but I don't know, tension versus materials versus processing or quantum.
Fluid,
Got some of them. And bring someone from each of those groups so that they have some synergy together. But yeah, getting people together sometimes is, hey, you need this because we know it's going to make your life better in the long run. Don't stay in your lab. Get out. And I tried. Like, I dragged Timothy out. When I'm in the hallway, I'm like, come to events.
Yeah, I think he tells me, like, at some point he said he was avoiding you, like.
Because he knows I'm going to come after him.
He was like, oh, Katie, like. She's here
especially if there's free food. I'm like, I go down the aisle and I knock on people's doors and I'm like, guys, free food. Come out of your office for 5 minutes and meet people, because I can come at it from different angles, like from mental health, trying to stay sane in grad school, but also from if you're trying to advance your research.
Yeah.
If publishing is important to you, finding groups of people to publish with is going to increase your publications.
Yeah.
And it makes it a whole lot more fun, in my opinion, to work with someone on a paper than by yourself. But that's obviously my opinion. And I'm working on my dissertation by myself right now. So, yeah, finding people to do things with, because there's weird connections. I know there's an electrical engineering student that does stuff with textiles. Yeah. And so there's that weird connection that they've created. So how can we find those connections both within our department, just in mechanical, within engineering in general. And then I know in my job as the GSA president this past year, I was like, hey, we have a whole university system. How do we talk to like a business student here at UNL, talk to a business student at the University of Kearney? How do we get that connections and in research and social and helping each other? So
yeah, I think when I came early, naturally, I'm quite reserved. So
Okay.
like I don't go out of my way trying to meet people. So I think that's why I'm very bad with SWE. Like I've never. Okay, I think I've been to the meetings maybe once or
I
twice.
think you came to our potluck. We did a breakfast potluck once.
I wasn't there. Did I?
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
That's where I met you, I think,
Yes,
actually.
yes. I think that was the first and last time I came. So I think that I was pretty bad. So like usually, okay, I think IBK has been trying to encourage me to attend, but I was like,
Well, I'm encouraging her because we share an advisor. So it's like, get your friends to come.
oh yeah, okay, no. I attended twice.
Okay.
Oh, you met me at what was the meeting? At Kiwit Hall.
Oh.
The one at Kiwit, where a professor was like speaking.
Oh yeah, one of the from structural engineering.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I went to that one as well. She was talking about, I think grad school.
Yeah, after grad school. Yeah.
Yeah, I know her face. I could not. Yeah,
I know her.
She's a wonderful person.
Yes. Yeah. So I think those are the two I attended. I don't think I attended anything outside that. So like naturally, I'm quite reserved. So and I went out of my way to attend that one because I felt like, oh, sounds interesting. But I wanted to also like try to be more involved.
Yeah.
I think I was kind of interested in applying for a position, but eventually I didn't see it through. So, but for someone that is kind of reserved, like how do you pull the person out of the lab? I'm not stuck in the lab. Yeah. I talk to people, but like I don't try to go out of my way to. So it's not like I don't want to socialize, but like
I think it's both sides. So like it's you going to two events, like that's amazing. So you went to something, you notice that, hey, I haven't gone to something, maybe I should go once in a while, and there may be some benefits. Maybe I'll like the talk or people. So I'm on the other side of that. I love people. I will talk to anyone in an airplane, in the bathroom. I've recruited for my flag football team, at the sink. So how do I get people? Usually it's just talking. It's walking up to someone and saying, hey, what are you passionate about? That's my question. What are you passionate about? What are you excited about? And maybe it's research, maybe it's gardening, maybe it's food, and finding those connections. And so I love international potlucks. I love food. So if we can find people that like also love cooking, which I have a group of 5 of us from different countries. We all cook meals together once a month. And so we were able to find something that they wanted. So maybe it's like, hey, you're looking for professional advice. Well, let's do a professional event, and maybe we'll get the people that are interested in that. So it's diversifying different events we're doing, and it's meeting people where they're at. So I walk through the halls of Kiewit or through Nebraska Hall or Research Center. That's where I find Timothy. And I'm like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? What's up? Talk to me. And that's how I recruit people to events and try and build those connections and say, hey, oh, you're mechanical and you don't know any other women in mechanical engineering? Hang on, I know 5. And so bringing people together that way. So that's how I bring people out is being the friendly face, hopefully. That's maybe annoying sometimes. I have a friend, Meredith, who will tell me that I am annoying, but also she's now the president of our GSA in civil and a rep. And so she could have said no, but it's worked. And we have some really amazing people involved because of the connections.
Yeah, I think I'll try to be more involved, hopefully.
I don't blame you. It's okay. Like I've had people go, who are you? Look at me like a deer in the headlights and run away. So do what you can, because being involved is stressful also. Like full transparency, like I burned out twice. It's not a good place to be. It's you go from being able to do 110% to doing 70% or 60% or nothing for like a day. And it's not a good situation. So knowing your limits and boundaries, both in research and work and helping others, all of these things, it's good to find a balance or put some boundaries up so that you don't
burn out.
So know how much you can do. If it's 2 Maybe hopefully it's 3 this year. But know what it is and
Okay.
be able to balance it.
Okay. So, your obviously advisor knows about your involvement in student government.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, has he or she been like? Has there been clashes like with your commitments?
So my prior advisor in my PhD program, yes. They wanted me to do more research wise. And as I was way overwhelmed. I was working like 80 hours a week. It was not a good place to be. Their assessment was you should drop all your extracurricular things and just focus on dissertation. Or at that time it was classes and research. I don't think that's healthy. I think it's important to have your other commitments in there as well. I think it's important to be involved in something or some group.
Yeah.
I think it's important to take a rest every 7 days. Research has said that's take a rest every 7 days. I don't care what day, take a rest. So I think all these things are really important to
Rounded.
well-rounded person. So I did drop quite a few things that year. And then I switched advisors. And my new advisor had been involved in student government at his university before, and he's awesome about it. I also don't work for him, so there is that. I work another job, but he's been fully on my side. How can I help? He listens to. We have a great rapport. So I'm like, hey, this is what's happening in student government. This is the problems if it's not like a confidential issue. And we talk through some of the stuff because he can provide more of an academic point of view on some of the issues or an experience that he's had when he was in student government. So I've been very lucky to have him as an advisor for these last 2 years. He's been I think of him as he's great. And there's a couple other advisors that I know that have been similar, and they're like, hey, we hear the problems. Like, you're coming back and saying these students are struggling. How can we help?
Yeah.
And that's a really cool thing to hear. And I hear it from higher up in administration as well. So like we've had conversations with the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs here at our university. And she's just like, hey, how can we help? Like, we know grad students are struggling. Our grad dean, Deb Hope, she's awesome. She's like, how can we help? And so we've made inroads in the last couple of years as a student government to create those connections. So they've been very, very open-minded. Obviously, there's some that aren't.
Yeah, because I think I've noticed the pattern.
Yeah.
Like different advisors, like you see like a particular advisor, most of the students are actively involved in like
It's one or the other.
yeah. And then you see another advisor and it's like just lab.
Ironicness, we were at an event. So the College of Engineering has a coffee and conversation once a month. Great opportunity. You should come. It's on Fridays. Yeah. And it's for the whole College of Engineering graduate students. And I've been going for the last 4 years, I think. And in the one in the mechanical engineering, because they jump between different departments, we had some of the professors go, hey, it'd be great if people were more involved. And we're all like, cool. You want your people to be involved? You're going to have to let them out of the lab. And they're like, what? So I think that there's also some cultural issues within different departments.
Yeah.
So BSE, they've done a really good job. Mostly. There's still issues. But and a lot of their advisors encouraging their students to go to these events. And not forcing, because that's a fine line there. It's actually a very big marker that shouldn't be crossed, but encouraging them to go and be involved in these things. But then you have more different labs that are like, they create their own little subgroup and they are like, hey, well, we're going to have our own event. And that I think is dangerous too, because it closes people off to a larger group. But yeah, there's so many stories.
But I've not had a lot of stories, but like I've seen the pattern and it's like, okay, I know this person and it's like, oh, I haven't seen you for a month, and it's just like laugh. I was like, okay, but I'm also a PhD student. Like, so how come like I have some, not like I have free time, like, but at least I'm trying to do like other things. Like my life does not revolve around just labs. Yeah. And it's like some people are just like lab morning till night. And it's like, I don't think that's healthy. But
no.
I think it's fine. Yeah. So
but then you don't see them. Like there's some people that I met like during orientation and I've seen twice in the last 5 years.
5?
Yes. That's intense. Like they're around. There's some people, there was a news article that came out about 2 of our students that are going on a trip internationally for research. I'm like, wait, Those are women in engineering in the college that have been here for years, and I've never seen them before. But yeah, that's alas, I try my best. I can't know everyone.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone else reached out.
Okay, so coming back to academics, core academics, like
Yeah.
so what's your like research about?
Research wrote, yeah. Yeah, I tend to talk about people so much that I don't always talk about my dissertation. Yeah, I'm working on a project that's looking at the skills that engineers need to work in agricultural technology startups.
Oh, sounds
Yeah.
nice. We're going to talk about that.
I think I'm excited about it because it's entering a place where there isn't any research.
Yeah.
And my degree is cool because we do both quant and qual research, quantitative and qualitative, which means you're doing both like numbers or graphs or stuff. And also the qualitative side. So you're asking questions, you're doing interviews, you're looking at job descriptions. And in engineering, traditionally, we don't have that, the how.
Yeah.
And that's missing a lot of times. I think we can gain a lot from looking at both sides. So my research, I'm able to do interviews. So it's a qualitative study, case study. And so I have interviews with people in the industry. So I'm going industry, not just academia, asking them what skills they think are important, looking at those job descriptions and looking at different livestock versus cropping systems and and jumping into agriculture, which I didn't know I would ever be in, but I really think it's a cool thing that's you're able to do in Nebraska.
Yeah.
There's so much agriculture here. So
Oh, I don't think I've been around enough to know that.
yeah.
Yeah,
All
but
the cornfields.
yeah, I know about the corn, but aside from corn, I don't think I've seen like ranches or I have seen
Yeah.
a private one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
but not like commercial. Are they commercial ranches?
Yeah.
Oh, I've not seen.
Feedlots. And there's chickens. And
Are there turkeys? I was looking for turkeys at some point.
I saw a wild turkey a while back.
Where?
I remember seeing it. I have an image in my head. So it was somewhere in Nebraska.
Yeah, because I was okay. So for those that don't know, I was recently pregnant. I have a
Yes.
baby now. So, at some point I was craving turkey, and I was looking for. I was
Don't recommend going down the road and knocking one off. But
I was looking for turkey. I was like, okay. So I know where to get turkey, but the turkey I saw were like soaked in brine. I don't know how they process it and frozen.
as a
I was like,
vegetarian, I have no idea.
oh, so I was like, I wanted like fresh turkey, like without any addition, and I looked everywhere. I didn't find it. Not looking for a live turkey. I was looking for like in stores. So then I asked someone on a group page. I have the group page I belong to, and I was like, can I get like fresh turkey? And someone was like, go and chase one down and catch one. I was like, where can it like? And I was like, is it not possible to get turkey without like aside around Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be my question. Would be like plants. It's just my understanding of animals, but like, well, like there's like capping season and stuff. So, like, do they grow turkeys generally during the fall and not in the spring? Is like. They like fertilize the eggs or continue.
Yeah, but
I would ask someone in the agricultural college that go over to animal science, and I'm sure they could help you out. But yeah, there's a lot of farms and ranches and stuff in Nebraska. You might have to go into more of the organic Whole Foods side of the internet to find like a farm to table kind of thing. Which is kind of off. But yeah, talk to some of our friends in animal science. They should be able to help you out, I think.
Okay. Well, the craving is gone now, so
yeah. Next time it's
okay. Yeah. So back to your research.
Yeah.
So how has that been like your experience going, especially the like interview part?
Yeah.
Like, having to go to meet like different companies.
So I did switch my area about halfway through. So when I switched advisors, I did switch my topic. So I've had to play a little bit of catch up on time situation and push my graduation a little bit. I think it's important to find an area that hasn't been researched. So if you can find a little niche area, that's always cool. And I think you're supposed to sort of
you have
a dissertation. But it depends on like how narrow it is. And I feel like mine's pretty wide. It's been hard from the standpoint that it's by yourself. Like, yes, I have my advisor support and I had some undergrads that helped me and I'm very thankful for their help. It was amazing. But it is something that is yours and you have to do. And I'm a very teamwork person, which is not usually normal, and as an engineer, but I love teams and I love groups and I love working with things with people. And so that's made the dissertation difficult, especially trying to finish up because I have a job and I love working at the job because I have a team and we're working on projects and it's new and exciting. Whereas the dissertation's just chilling on my computer. I did enjoy the interviews. It was a lot of fun. We don't always get a chance to do interviews, which you have tons of experience. So you should really look into doing some education research.
Yeah, I actually wanted to do. So I think I was speaking to IBK. Like, is there a way to?
Yes.
But she was like, don't come.
I would agree with her 100% on don't come into our program. But I would say we can help you out and we can find ways to get you into the area without actually having to do our program.
Oh,
so
okay.
We can talk about that.
Okay.
And IBK. Yeah. So interviews are fun, especially because you're talking to people that are very passionate about what they do. Yeah. And so you're saying, hey, like, why'd you go into this? What skills got you there? What were your experiences?
Yeah.
And so that was fun. Coding it took time. So that's where you go through your interview and take out sections and tie it into themes. And that is something that's still, it's almost done. Then I can write about it and be done. So the process is long and kind of exhausting. But I think it'll be really fulfilling when it's done. I wouldn't want to do it ever again. Probably wouldn't have done it in the first place. So think think hard before doing a PhD. But it is what it is. And I'll certainly use the skills I've gotten and from both the dissertation and just the degree in general. But
yeah, I think before I get admission in mechanical, I was actually looking at engineering education.
Okay.
And I was like, IBK was like, thank God. I was like, oh yeah, I am interested in engineering education. I'm also interested in like core engineering.
Okay.
So like I was like, okay, can I do both? But I think it's going to be too demanding to do. We do have two, so this is not helpful to other people, but for you in particular, we do have some friends that have Samira out of BSc and Meredith out of civil engineering, both women in engineering. They have taken some of the classes, and we don't have a minor, but it's pretty much like they've created a minor in our program. Okay.
Or they'll do some of the research. So Samira is a good example. She's going into schools and doing presentations and stuff and getting her research that way. So she's not EER, but her research is in the educational space. And I could totally see the ability to do that in your case as well. There's also DBER, which is discipline-based education research, which we're part of, but also like math and science and biology. They all have DBER stuff too. And so you can do education research, be part of that community without being engineering education research PhD.
Okay.
And especially if you're already in mechanical. I think there's a lot of different things where you can cross and take classes. That's one of the cool things about grad degrees is you are kind of plotting your own course. And yes, there's a couple required classes, but you get to pick your electives and what will help you. So if you want to do more education research, take an education class in engineering or in ed psych. We take a lot of ed psych classes. Oh, okay. Go take one of those.
Okay, now let's start talking about something relevant.
Yeah.
So aside from
talk for hours.
Yeah. So back to your research. So because you're more senior researcher than I am,
so, I guess.
So about getting what do they call it? Like establishing your niche
area.
Yeah, area of let's say interest or so how do you define something you are interested in as a person versus what is actually relevant?
Yeah. I think there's a 3 parts to that. So in my master's degree, I did what the funding was there for. Yeah. So I did ethanol plant research. It was interesting. It was funded, and I got a master's degree out of it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's important to realize, especially for a master's degree, it's okay to do what's there. Yes, hopefully you like it. You shouldn't do something that you completely dislike.
Yeah.
But I know money plays a big role, and funding has a huge impact on grad degrees. So master's, that was that way. For a PhD, especially if you're going to go into academia, it's really nice to have it somewhat align with what you like.
Yeah.
Like it should be, because it's usually kind of the Kickstarter. It helps if you go on to do research of your own at a university. It doesn't have to be in the same area, but it's really nice if it continues on from that.
Yeah.
You already have that base, and then you can kind of spread it out. And so I've seen that a lot with the people that have interviewed at the university and looked at their presentation of their dissertation and then what the research they do. But what was the other side of that?
Yeah, like what you're interested in versus what's like.
Yeah, so then maybe I'm interested in so many things that could be interesting, but like interested in the reaction of baking soda and cooking. Well, that's been looked at a lot.
Yeah.
And so that, yes, I might be passionate about it, but there's not really an opportunity to lend anything to that field. So I think it's important to look at a couple different things. So, hey, I'm interested in this, Some people say read. I don't like reading a lot of research papers personally, but that is an option. So if you're interested in that, go read. Another option is talk to people, which could be the other side of that. If you don't want to, if you like reading, read and talk to people otherwise, but talk to other researchers. So I found out about my area from, I left my old advisor and jumped to a new job and went into a completely different department for my job and found agriculture. I would not have crossed paths with it otherwise. Yeah. And so here I entered this field and was like, hang on a second. There's this whole field with a lot of passionate people that need more people to enter this field. And I look at it in literature, I'm like, there's nothing here. I have found a place that I both think is really cool and I can add to it. So yeah, I think it's important to look around you. If you're applying to grad school and you got funding for a PhD, figuring out what your advisor's doing if they're going to pay you. Yeah. I obviously did a left turn and I'm not paid by my advisor. Okay. So that's another conversation. Whether or not
do you get to like work? So because you're not being paid by your advisor, like do you get to work on something you are more interested in versus what he is?
So engineering education research, which is not all engineering, yeah, or every degree program, is unique in many ways, but in our program, they require your dissertation to be separate from the research you're working on for your advisor. So there's maybe there's overlap, but there's usually not. So it's you doing two different projects simultaneously. So for me, because I'm not doing work for my advisor, I just have my project I'm doing, which is, I think, the better way to do it in my program, because otherwise you're doing twice the amount of work. Yeah. Whereas my husband, he got paid to do his master's thesis and dissertation. It was in the same thing that his advisor wanted. He had a grant for it, which is awesome. It's one project. Way better on the time scale. So I would go for that. If you can get paid to do your dissertation in an area you want and you have a grant for it, or a scholarship or a fellowship, obviously that's the best of all worlds. But I think as you're entering into a program, that's a question to ask is, hey, if I want to do my own research, will you support me in my research? Will you, like, if you're doing interviews, will you help me pay my participants or like give them an incentive? Like, hey, if you participate, you get a $25 gift card. Yeah. Who's paying that $25? In my case, my advisor would have been willing to, if my participants, they all were so excited that they didn't need it. But if not, then you're going to be footing that. And so that's a conversation to have with previous students usually and say, hey, what was your experience like? Did your advisor help you and support you in that way? Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought about it like when I got in and I was wondering like, okay, no, I like the research I'm doing. Yep. But I was like, okay, there's something else I'm interested in. Like I would probably love to explore. Mm-hmm. And I was like, will I be like working overtime trying to like fulfill my passion projects, or like do I have to like speak to my advisor to see how we can like
bring it together?
Yeah, bring it together in a way, but I'm not seeing how they
integrate.
So I'm just seeing, like, I'm just letting it play out. Like okay, let's see. Probably one day something is going to happen. Down the road. I think this is my second year. Yeah, second year. So I think I have time.
Yeah. And I think if it's a passion project, you're able to give more time to it, even if you shouldn't. But you have time. Also, maybe Funny will run it on the other project, and all of a sudden he'll need new ideas. So that might come up. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to like figure out ways to bring it in. Maybe there's extra grant money in a different grant you didn't know about or something that would relate to it.
Yeah.
But
I think speaking to people helps. So like, I think I need to get out more and talk to people, especially maybe in your department. Or so
I can connect you with people, certainly. Yeah.
Okay. So going back again to your work, like, so what do you do like for your day to day?
Yeah. So for my actual job?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm almost at a year now of working for Brewery and Associates up in Fargo, North Dakota.
Do you go there in person?
I will be in a couple weeks, but I've been there like 3 times now. So I work remotely, which is kind of a cool opportunity to both work part-time and remotely and finish up school here in Lincoln. I found it through Handshake, which people have mixed reviews on if Handshake's useful, but it worked for me. So that was cool. I love it. I love being a civil engineer. Yeah. I get to work with a great group of people they do development and civil consulting, working with municipalities and cities across North Dakota and clients. And we're currently working on the EPA's put out the lead and copper rule, a new revision, which is looking at replacing all the lead service lines. So that's, you have a water main down the center of your street, and off of that is a lateral or a smaller pipe that goes into the home.
I didn't know what that is.
Yeah, so it's how you get your water is in a smaller pipe into the building.
Okay.
So that smaller pipe from the big one that's like 6 to 8 or 4 inches, depending on where you're at. The small one that's like a 1 inch or a 3/4 inch line. Okay. At a certain time in history, they were lead. And lead causes neurological issues.
Yeah.
That's really bad. So the government is, through the Environmental Protection Agency, is going through and putting in plans in place to remove all lead lines that happen to be left over over the years. So we're going through and inventorying all the service line material. So what is that material? Is it lead? Is it copper? Is it plastic of some sort? For, I think it's like 45 cities in North Dakota now. So yeah, we go through, we talk to them. So the fun part is getting to talk with the municipality, see the passion for their city and their understanding of the people that live there. If it's an older community, would a survey link on a phone be difficult? Would you get responses? Is it a younger community? Are people willing to take a picture of where their water comes in so we know what material it is? So that's
how do you
my life right now.
How do you determine like
material?
Yeah, from
So the water main's in the middle of the street, and underground you have the first half of this little line, which we call the service line. Yeah. We call that the public side. Usually the municipality or the city owns that first half. Okay. And then usually the customer owns the second half. That's not always the case though, so caveat that. But the first half, usually it's buried. We can't see it, so unless there's a historical record, so we look at when they built it, did they do a construction drawing or an as-built? And we say, hey, what material did they put in? If it was after 1986, was the federal ban on lead. 1988 in North Dakota was kind of where you're safe to say they didn't put lead lines in. Okay. So we can say, hey, it's after the lead ban. They didn't put lead in. Yay, awesome. It's probably copper or HDPE. But the private side, you're able to look at your water meter. So that's how we figure out how much water someone's used. That's how they're billed. Okay. And so you go down and you take a picture on either side. You'll be able to see the plumbing of the house and the line coming in from outside through the ground, connecting to that meter. And so if you take a big enough picture, you can see both sides and we can look at it and we go, oh, that's copper. It's kind of coppery. Or HDPE has a unique joint and how it's connected. And so being able to like pick apart. I know a lot more about plumbing now. But yeah, so obviously I'm very passionate about this. But it's been my life for the last couple months. It's just working with these groups and looking at, I've probably looked at 1,000 as-built at this point. So I now have engineering firms I'm don't like because they did a horrible job on their as-builts, and other firms that did great. So I think it's a reminder to all of us that if you're going to do drawings, you're going to do research, you're going to do anything, write down your process, note where you got stuff from, because it's really hard to go back and figure stuff out later.
Yeah.
Especially like 60 years later. It's rough.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So how you been able to like balance everything?
I haven't. Is completely honest. Yeah, I am certainly getting my 20 hours of work every week because I enjoy it. But my dissertation has probably suffered a little bit because of it. I was wanting to graduate in May. Obviously, I did not. So we're looking more like a December. So I need to do more. I also love cooking. So I'd rather make muffins than work on my dissertation. And then I love people. So being able to come hang out with you guys today is really, really a cool opportunity. So I'm making progress. It's slow. My advisor's like, he'll text me. He's like, how's it going? Like, it's going. We'll talk soon. Yeah. So no, I've not always been able to balance it very well. Between being involved in dissertation and work.
And you play football?
I play flag football, yes.
So what, flake?
Flag football. It's American football with flags. So they don't tackle you. They pull a little piece of material that's on your hip. They pull it off. That's a flag.
Okay.
I've played since grade 7. It's a lot of fun. I am always trying to recruit more people for the flag football team at intramurals. So yes, I do that too. And then I love, baking, cooking, and I have a lot of friends with little kids. So I love hanging out with them and being an auntie. So yeah, I think winning or being the standard that I want to be at is to be healthy, I guess, is to have a variety. Yeah. And so something's going to drop, but making sure that,
like what's important to you.
Yeah. So it's making sure that I have food in my house, and, exercise has dropped a little bit, but, that I get to spend some time with my husband. We get to hang out, that I have my friends, and if someone needs help, they know they can reach out to me. Yeah. And I will always answer my phone. And so some of those things are really important to me. Obviously, currently my job is pretty important to me. And as long as progress is continuing to be made, I think it's just one step in front of the other. People always use the analogy of like a master's is more like a sprint. Mm-hmm. PhD is more like a marathon. And I thought they were joking. And I was like, that won't be me. It's me. It is a marathon. It's been a journey, and I think I don't know how many miles in a marathon. Half mile marathon, 42. 42, I think, right?
I don't know.
Someone's gonna come after me. So I'm like at like 39 right now. It's really tired. I can't quite see the end yet, so I'm not like getting that burst of speed yet.
Yeah.
So procrastination hasn't hit yet, and it hasn't pushed me forward. But yeah, balancing things can be hard. I think there's resources for doing better at that. Having those conversations, talking to the people around you to figure out where, like I cook, my husband does the dishes and the car repairs and mowing and a lot of things. But also his job, he flies places and sits in a hotel, and he can work on his dissertation while he gets paid. Where my job, I have to work during the hours that I'm paid. So it's a little bit different situation for him. So it works out. So I do the thing I enjoy. He does the other things that he enjoys more and he likes my cooking. So you find balance, and I think it's the community coming together is really important.
Yeah. So lastly, I'm going to ask about the Nigerians.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know, like, I know you have like
bunch of Nigerian friends.
Yes. So how has that been like?
Yeah. I love the fact that in grad school we have people from everywhere.
Yes.
It's awesome. It's the coolest experience to learn about different religions, cultures, diets, food. I love food. From all these different places, and people's values and their cultures really do impact them as well.
Yeah.
And I've been able to see that throughout my whole time here. And I've been really lucky to have our whole department. There was 4 of us at the very beginning. One guy from Nigeria, South Africa, India, and I claim Canada in that instance. So we'd have 4 countries. And it was really interesting to see how we approach problems, how we approach talking to people. And then the next year we had 3 more Nigerians, one of them being IBK that we talked about. And I don't want to like classify a whole group of people a certain way because everyone has their own personalities. Yes. But I have found Nigerians to be very supportive, very like in student government. Half my team was Nigerian. They were very, very excited to be involved, and they did some great stuff. Nosa is another one in my program, and he's helped me so much in the last few years. And very straightforward. There's no beating around the bush. And I think that can be very helpful in a lot of instances. I think it also can be really hard sometimes when you have people from other cultures where they're not upfront and they'll kind of like come at things from a side view. So it's kind of like they're not straightforward. Yeah. They're like, oh, well, maybe we should do that. I don't know. What do you think? And you're like, they want to do it. Yeah. And so you're like, let's do it. So I've seen it cause issues in some programs where there's just a complete disconnect. And as an outsider, I'm watching this happen and I'm like, this is not personality. It's just like a total different way of looking at the world through your experiences and the way you grew up. So I think helps me be a better person, being friends with people from around it also helps in Nigeria.
I think it helps. Like, I had a clash, disagreement, misunderstanding.
Yes.
Yeah, with someone this past semester. He's from a different country, different culture. Yep. And I was seeing things in a certain way, and apparently he was seeing it in a different way. And I was like, no, this. So let me explain the situation without divulging any information. So we're working on a project, and so the same way you mentioned that Nigerians like tend to be team oriented. So I felt like this is a team project. I don't have to I think everybody's input is important, but like it's not like, oh, this is what I have done, this is what you have done. It's like what the team has done. And like when we're presenting it, we're presenting it as a team. So I don't believe in like individual efforts. So I was like trying to like I played my part, and towards the end he was like, okay, this is what I did, and he began to list out what he did, and it's like he felt like I didn't do as much as he did. I was like, that is not true, because he had one advantage over me, which was he had access to a certain building. Because like I don't want to go too much into details.
But if you have access to the equipment, you're going to do that whole portion.
Exactly.
You don't have access
I was doing like more of the like software aspect of it, and he was just like getting my codes, going to test on the machine, and it was like because I was not there during the filming, which was like late at night, and I was like. And towards the end of the semester, like going to like towards the end of the program, a lot of rushing, trying to complete, like debugging had to be done at the last moment. The motors didn't work, and then he just flipped out, and it was like he felt like I've done nothing all semester. I was like, what do you mean I've done nothing? Like, and I began to show him the text messages I sent to you, like this is what I said at this time. I worked on this, and that was. So I just felt like So towards the end, I told my husband, like, I'm feeling like very bad, like because, like, I don't even mind even if I did the whole project myself. I would have said we did it, because like that's how I was like. That's what I'm used to. Yeah, that's how. Yeah, I don't put it like I feel this is a teamwork. Like I don't have to say, okay, I did this, and then I'm presenting. I'm like, and when we were presenting it, and he was like, this is what he did. Oh. So eventually, like we both got bad marks.
Oh no.
But yeah. So, but I think I learned from that, and I've moved forward. I'm not annoyed, and like I'm not annoyed. I just like so it's a learning curve for me, because I've not had that. I've worked with like people from other like countries, cultures, and I felt like we did well. Like, but I think that was just one bad stroke.
Yeah, and team projects can have some issues with that, where it's like, hey, I think it's important to sit down at the beginning, and even though we're all doing it together, there is kind of some breaking up of like, if you're doing this portion, I'm doing this portion. Yeah, maybe I'm going to do more of the writing, just so that we're all contributing. Like, obviously, I have no idea more than what you told me, but it could have just been like a communication breakdown, and that's happened. So. I've had a similar experience with someone else from another culture where we both left extremely offended from a conversation, like to the point I was just scared for my life. Like it was bad. And it was just like we had totally taken what I'd said and he'd said differently.
Yeah.
And I thought he was attacking me as a woman. He thought I was attacking him as a person or culturally. Like, he's like, I would not even say that to my mom. How dare you? And I was like, what did I do? And it was literally a cultural thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
in my culture too. And so it was a moment of, our advisor, which is or the person we were working for, with different culture altogether, had to sit down and mediate between us to understand our points of view. And I can understand where he's coming from now. And I'm like, okay, like, yes, I don't think what you said to me was right, but I understand where you're coming from. We moved on and I never have to work with that person ever again. But cultures do play. They're amazing things. And I think they're way more of a positive benefit to our education and our country and our lives and everything. But sometimes it does result in some interesting conversations or experiences that we sometimes have to like drag a third person in to kind of like, okay, is this
we have to drag a third person in,
or is it a me, or is it a culture, or is it just like we're just looking at the world for different worldviews?
I think I definitely felt attacked when he first mentioned it, and it was like, oh, I'm going to report to you, you've done nothing. I was like, what do you mean I've done nothing? Because
but also like lack of understanding on maybe how much it takes to do the computer code, versus maybe you didn't understand how much it was to run the thing on the thing. And so there could have been just like a lack of understanding.
Yeah, I guess that
there also. I'm sorry.
So it was
when that happens.
Yeah, I think it was a terrible, but I think it was a learning curve for me. Like, I think, there was a point in time, like it was communication issues, and like he was saying something, I was hearing differently, I was saying something, he was hearing differently, and then we just flipped out on each other, and it was like, don't speak to me, I don't want to hear it.
Oh yeah, that's rough, especially when it's the end of semester and everyone's stressed out.
Exactly, everyone's and I got to a point, he was like, he had to call his father had cancer, and
my goodness,
I was like, I didn't know it was that serious.
Yeah. So there's also the other side where if we're in classes with people every day, but sometimes we don't know their whole experience.
Yes.
Like, you just had a baby. I suspected you were going to have a baby, but I didn't know. So it's like, IBK, I didn't know she was pregnant for months. And so it's kind of this, things could be going on that you have no idea until something happens, or there's a breakdown and they tell you in maybe a positive or a negative way, what's going on. And I think in grad school life, we're all already kind of frayed. My mom always used an analogy of like a rope. You're hanging on to the end of the rope, barely hanging on. And grad school creates an environment where you are stressed to the max, multiple times over, and it pushes you maybe beyond that sometimes. And so it is a culture that can be hard to work with people sometimes, because you don't have a lot of patience or a lot of give left. After some situations, but we work, we learn.
We move on.
Yes, it did take me a while to move on from that one, but it's we're all good now, and I think I can look back on my experience, at least, with a very like, I have learned a lot from that, and I can take it into my future perspective, but that wasn't the case at the time.
So like this is going to be my last question.
Okay.
So like, what's the one big value you've gotten from like a different culture or a different like system?
Ooh. Like, I've learned a lot, but I feel like the experience being with other cultures has made me appreciate them more, which is kind of, it's not like I've gained it from a different culture, but that the experience has made my life way more full. I think I appreciate a lot of things more. Like I love learning and hearing people's stories and journeys, and that uniqueness has made me a better person. It's made me more understanding. And I can, like, visas are something I've never had to deal with, and now I know a lot more about, and I'm like, oh, that can be really rough, especially if you're from India. It's a long process. So I have some good friends from India as well. But yeah, it's I think it's made me a better person because I can be more understanding, hopefully.
Yes, yeah. I think that's one thing that helps.
Yeah.
Like if you're just around the same set of people, like you have the same.
It's an echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. You share the same values. Everything stays the same. But when you see someone different, and it's like, oh, so this is a different reasoning, a different like mode of thinking, or different worldview.
Yeah.
And it's like interesting.
Yeah. And like one of the cool things I've gotten to do due to the amount of people I know is attend different events that other people enjoy doing. So I've been able to go to, like, what was the first event? I went to your reception.
Yeah.
That was cool. I've gone to Diwali celebrations. I've gone to Bangladesh night. I've gone to international nights. And so I've got to experience music and culture.
Yeah.
Also through those, and so that's really cool.
Yeah.
And if you're in your own group, you don't get to experience as much of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's bring this to a close. Thank you for your time, and thank you for wedding dress.
I'm glad you were able to use my wedding dress.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate it. It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
I'll borrow it again.
Hopefully you don't have to get married again. But yeah, I got it from a used store, so you'd be the third person to wear it. I don't know who the first person was, but thank you to that person. Hopefully it's been a good decision on my part. Thoroughly happy with my husband. So hopefully you guys can share that happiness going forward too.
So thank you so much for your time, and join us again on the next episode.
So